Today, I'm going to introduce the Antigravity A1, the world's first 8K 360 drone co-developed with Insta360. When you first unbox this drone, it can feel overwhelming and intimidating because there are a lot of different components and a lot of buttons and different features that make this drone unique from a lot of other drones. So even if you're like me and you've flown a lot of other drones, the Antigravity A1 is basically in a class of its own. My goal is to help you get up and running as quickly as possible while also understanding what you need to fly this drone and have a lot of fun with it like I have. So depending on which bundle you get will depend on what all you have in the box. In my case, I have the Infinity bundle, and basically the Infinity bundle includes a few additional things the Essential bundle does not. But regardless of which bundle you got, the basic components of the drone, the controller, and the goggles are going to be the same. And if you go around to the back of your box on here, this is going to show you everything that comes included. So this nicely itemizes that for you. We're gonna get this nice sling bag out of here. And what I love about this bag is it keeps everything together in one place, so I don't have to worry about losing it. So let's get out our key components here. First, inside this hard shell case, this is gonna be where our drone itself is. And then some of the other components that we need, we've got our goggle battery right here. We've got a lanyard that we're gonna attach to that. I'll show you that in a moment. We've got our goggles right here. We've got our controller right here. And I've got my 2 extra batteries right here on the charger, but I've already got one in the drone, so we are all set with that. And then the other thing we need is this cable right here. This attaches between our goggles and our goggle battery. So first of all, let's get the drone out of its case. So first of all, when it comes to unfolding this, you're gonna pull out the bottom, propellers and arms first, and then you're gonna do the top ones. And you wanna be really careful not to touch the 360 lens right here or the one on the bottom. Those lenses, you don't want any fingerprints or dust on those, and I do recommend each time before you fly it that you clean those off to make sure there's no smudges or fingerprints or dust. And before you set down your drone, pull out the landing gear right here. This is on the bottom, and what this does when you're flying is this does tuck back in automatically, but you want to make sure that's out before you set it on the ground. That way this lens here on the bottom is not going to hit and potentially get scratched or damaged. So in addition to the 360 cameras on here, let me show you what some other components are. So this is a forward vision sensor right here, and this is also a forward vision sensor right here. And right here, this is the front indicator. So this is going to display a certain light showing you that it's the front of the drone. And of course, these are the propellers and the motors on the drone. There are 4 of them. This is the downward vision sensor right here. This is the downward infrared sensor, and this is the landing light right here. And if we pivot this around and look at it from this angle, from the rear view, this is the power button right here. So when you want to power it on, you tap it 2 times, and on the second tap, you're gonna hold it, just like that. You're gonna wait till all 4 lights light up, and then it's going to power on. It's gonna make that little tone. And this right here is the micro SD card slot. So this drone does have internal storage, but I highly recommend putting in a micro SD card as well. That way you have additional storage to capture all of that incredible 8K 360 footage. This, of course, right here is a USB-C port. So you can use this port both to charge the battery on the drone, and you also can connect it to this to copy off footage from the drone to your computer. In addition, you also can copy footage off here via Wi-Fi to the Antigravity app on your phone if you'd like to edit it on your smartphone. And of course, these lights right here on the battery, these are the battery level indicators. There are 4 of them. So if all 4 are lit, that means your battery is between 75 and 100% full. 3 of them are lit, it's 75. 2 of them, 50. 1 of them is 25 or below. And then this right here is the flight status indicator. So these lights will be different colors depending on what you're doing with the drone. Let's take a look at the goggles here next. So first of all, these are the antennas on the goggles. You want to have these up. And this right here is the venting port. These will get a little bit warm, so this is to help keep them cool because these are going to be doing quite a bit when you're using them. And then this lens right here is the outer display. So this is going to show what you are seeing on this when you're filming. I'll show you that in a moment. And then on the bottom here is the diopter adjustment knob, so you can adjust this anywhere between 0 and -5 for your vision correction if you don't have your corrective lenses or glasses on. And then this right here is also a touchpad, so there's actually different things you can do when touching this. And going around to the side view here, first of all, this is the home linking button on this side. And of course, there is this nice foam padding around here. This is very comfortable to wear on your head. And this, of course, is the adjustment strap, so you can adjust this as you need to for the size of your head. And going around to this side right here, this is the volume button, so you can adjust the volume up or down. And then looking here at the bottom and inside view, this right here is a memory card slot, so you can actually put a micro SD card in here if you'd like to record what you're going to see, which I am going to put a card in there in a moment here so I can record what I'm seeing to show you. And this right here is the data port. This data port right here is if you want to copy anything from the micro SD card in here off to your computer, you can connect it right there. This is the USB-C to DC power cable port. So this is where we're going to connect to the cable right here. That's going to connect to our battery pack for the goggles. And then if your goggles are getting foggy on you, there's a defog inlet right here. So if they start to get foggy, you actually can activate that to clear them, and it's going to clear them really quickly. So while we're at it, I've already shown you how to plug in this DC cable on this side of the goggles, but we're also going to hook up the battery here. So for the battery, it's really easy. The goggles battery, you're just going to plug in the cable right here. It's going to click into place. And then when it's time to power on the goggles, you're just going to do the same thing as the drone. You're going to click 2 times, and on the second time, you're going to hold it, and it's going to power on your goggles. And finally, let's take a look at the grip motion controller right here. This actually has a fair bit of buttons on this, and this is probably the part of this whole system that took me a little bit of time to practice and learn. So first of all, this right up here at the top is the battery level indicator. If you tap the power button just 1 time, it's going to show you the charge on the grip controller. We are fully charged right now. It showed all 4 lights. This red button right here, this is the emergency brake or the return to home button. So you can press once to brake, and the drone is going to hover right there in the air. And then if you press and hold it, this is going to activate return to home. So when you press and hold, the drone is going to immediately chart a path back to you, and it's going to land from where you started. And this button right here is called the flight slider button. And what you're going to do is you're going to push upward 2 times in a short motion to start the motors. And then when the motor starts, you're going to push the slider upward and hold for at least 2 seconds to have the drone take off and ascend into the air. And then when you're in mid-flight, if you want the drone to go up, you can push this up and the drone is going to ascend. If you want the drone to come down, you're going to hold it down and the drone's going to descend. This right here is the record button. And what I recommend doing is before your drone even leaves the ground, hit this record button. It's really easy to get caught up in the moment, but you don't want to forget to record the incredible footage that you're capturing. And then this right here, the 360 dial button, this will rotate and you can slide it left or right to adjust the live view and the heading of the drone. And you can press it inward to recenter the perspective of the heading of the drone. So this button can accomplish a lot. This over here is the shutter button, so when you're in the default mode, you can press and hold it to switch from video mode to photo mode. And when you're in photo mode, all you have to do is do a short press to capture an image. Just click it once, and it's gonna take a photo. And this button right here is a customized C1 button. So by default, while the drone is in midair, you can double press this to turn on or off the landing lights. This is the flight mode toggle switch right here. And by default, it's going to start off in N, which is normal mode, but you also can click it up to go to sport mode. Sport mode is going to give you the fastest speeds with this drone, but there are certain obstacle avoidance features that won't be available when you're in that mode. That's good to be aware of. And then if you push it all the way down to the C, that's going to be Cine mode, and that is going to give you the smoothest but slowest operation of this drone. I typically just operate it in the normal mode. Going around here, this is the power button. So if you want to power it on, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to press once and then press and hold it again to switch on. And this button right here, this is the menu button. So if you want to bring up the menu on the goggles, you're just going to press this once to enter or exit the general menu. And then you can press and hold to activate the shortcut menu. And finally, this right here is the throttle trigger. So when you're holding it, this is going to be right there. Really easy for you to push to get your throttle with the drone. Before you do your first flight, you do want to make sure to charge up all of these components. The controller, you can charge it right here by plugging it in on the bottom. The goggles, you can charge the battery for the goggles by plugging it in right here. Then the drone, you can charge by plugging it in right here at the back of the drone. And of course, if you have one of the bundles that has the separate battery charger, you can charge the batteries in that. But if you don't have that, this is how you'll charge the battery directly in the drone. So once we have everything charged up, what we want to do is we want to make sure this lanyard is connected to the goggle battery. This is going to be so you can have that worn around your neck. So I'm going to connect it right here. It's going to clip into place. And what we're going to need to do first is we're going to need to download and install the Antigravity app on a smartphone. And once you've installed that app, you want to power on everything first, and then you're going to activate all those components. And the Antigravity app is also going to let you know if there's a firmware update available for the goggles, the controller, or the drone itself. If there is, it's going to push that update and it's going to install it on those components. Now, the first time you do this when you unbox, it's probably going to take about 15 minutes or so to do all of those firmware update installations. But once you've done that, any subsequent updates are generally going to be much faster. And the great thing about these devices is all three of them are paired upon delivery, so no linking should be required. So I'm gonna move some stuff out of the way, and we're gonna do some setup in the goggles and do our first time takeoff. So what I wanna do here first is I wanna power on the drone. We're gonna tap and then tap a second time and hold. And then next, I'm gonna power on my goggles, and I'm gonna get those on so that I can show you what I see on that screen. And then finally, last, we're gonna power on our motion controller. And I'm gonna get this placed on my head. One thing you wanna make sure to do first is you wanna make sure to put this lanyard around your neck. That way you don't have to try to get it around the goggles once they're already on. Get my motion controller here. So these settings over here are only going to apply when our drone is in the air. But let's go to these menus up here and let's set some settings. So first, the default lost connection behavior is return to home, and I highly recommend keeping it that way. Up here for the obstacle avoidance behavior, I like to keep this on brake. You can do bypass, but I have found with other drones that bypass, sometimes the drone gets stuck trying to bypass stuff, or it'll end up like hitting a small branch, something like that. So I like it to brake, and then I can figure out the best way around the obstacle. For the return altitude, I like to keep this at the default of 80 meters. 80 meters is generally going to be a safe return altitude. And then for the max flight altitude, I also keep this at 120 meters. You've got the Find My Drone right here. And then down here is going to be some of the recordings that you've done. So you can see where I powered it on in my studio down here. And then a couple other flights that I've done with it recently. And then going down here to the bottom, if we go to quick settings, that's what we're already on. But if we go over here, we can go to the safety settings menu, and that's gonna let you adjust some of these. Like the max distance, 5,000 meters away is pretty far, but I have just kept that at the default. There's no way I'm gonna fly at 5,000 meters away, not personally. And then for the return path, I like to keep this as optimal return path. So I want the drone to automatically plan the optimal path depending on where it is, because there might be obstacles and I want it to go around those. I don't want it to necessarily return at that set altitude, because sometimes that may not be a good idea. And then down here, the camera settings, there's some important ones that we want to change here. So first of all, if you're using the built-in drone storage, make sure to select that. And then there is, of course, 20 gigabytes that's built in. That is not very much. So that's where I do recommend having the micro SD card. But if you ever need to format that internal storage, you can click Format right there, and it's going to format it. And right here for the time-lapse photography, if you want to keep the original photos to be able to modify those later on, you can. However, considering this is a 360 camera, I don't keep the original photos, I just keep the actual output. Then for the video encoding format, I recommend doing H.265. It's gonna have good quality with a smaller file size. And then for the bitrate, this is a key one. You wanna set this to high. You want to get the highest quality footage out of here, and that is a way to guarantee that you do. For the photo storage format, I like to have this both INSP plus RAW. That way, if I want to edit any of those photos later on, I can do that quite easily with photo editing software. For the guidelines, I like to have the crosshair on, but I don't like to have the diagonal. If you want the diagonal, you can turn that on as well. And then the image assist indicators, if you want the histogram on, that can be really helpful. And then down here, this is the control mode. So there's the free motion mode and the FPV mode. I like to do the default free motion mode. And then down here under the transmission and connections, I like to do the AI noise reduction. I find that that looks really good, especially if you're flying in lower light. That can be really helpful. And then for the display view sizes, I just keep that at comfort mode. You can do the immersive view, but the immersive view, I'll show you right here. We're gonna switch to that. The immersive view is a little bit wider, and for me, it's just too wide for my perspective, so I like to do the comfort view. And then for the channel mode and the transmission frequency, I just keep this set to auto, and I keep all of that at auto. There is a voice assistant, so if you want to use voice commands, you can do so. And these are some of the commonly used features right here. And if you ever want to do a simulator with this, you can click right here on the simulator. I highly recommend doing that your first time. You can go through that flight simulator, and it's gonna really help you get familiar with the controls before you fly it the first time, which I highly recommend doing. And over here, the camera parameter settings, I wanna go through here and show you the settings that I recommend. So up here where it says standard video, this is where you can change your video options. You can do slow motion or you can do time lapse. If you go to slow motion, you can set the specs right up here, which I just go with the defaults when I'm doing that. And then time lapse, you can do the same thing here. You can select a duration ahead of time, an interval, and then the generated video duration. And then of course down here under photo, you've got your different photo options. You can do standard, HDR photos look incredible. You can do burst mode where it's gonna capture a bunch at once, and then you can do the AEB. The AEB is always a favorite of mine with the drone because you can get a bunch of pictures and then it's going to stack those on each other to get the bracketing. It's gonna do one that's way overexposed, one that's normal exposure, and one that's underexposed. It's gonna give you the best of each of those. Back to the standard video, because that's what most of us are gonna be using most often. So with your resolution in frames per second, you can go all the way up to 8K 30, and I often find myself doing 8K 24. It's a little bit more of a cinematic feel and a slightly slower shutter speed in certain conditions. So I personally do 8K 24. And then here, if we go to Pro, there's some settings here that we can adjust. And there's one setting in particular I like to adjust. The ISO is set to auto by default, but I like to actually go here and select 100 if I'm flying in the middle of the day. And the reason for that is that's going to produce the cleanest video from this. And with the ISO of 100, the camera's going to slow down the shutter speed, which is set to auto right here, which I'm going to keep set to auto. But when you do that ISO of 100, it forces it to use the slowest shutter speed. That's going to have the most natural feel to the footage when you do that. And we're gonna go back to the main menu. So here with the virtual cockpit, this is if you want to add any of these cool effects right here, you can do that. That's not my thing, but if you want to, you can toggle through a bunch, and this gives you a preview down here. I mean, it does look pretty cool if you want that. And then over here, you've got the customizable buttons, so you can adjust what your C1 and C2 buttons do, which is pretty cool. So right now, when I stop my screen recording, I can double tap the C1 and it's gonna do that. And then over here, you can adjust the outer display and ring light on this. So if you want these to look different or turn them on and off, you can do that right here, which is really easy. And then the defog, if they're getting fogged up, you can adjust that right here. You can turn it on, which I just did right here. And it's running a pretty good maximum wind power right now to clean it off. And then here's where you can adjust your brightness and your volume. So I just keep it with the default brightness. So now that we've gone through all of that, let's do our first flight. But first of all, I want to show you how you can see outside of this. So you're going to reach your hand up here to the upper left and you're going to tap twice. And this is going to give you the view of what you're seeing. So Right here is everything on the table. There's my camera recording. If I need to look around, I actually heard a loud crash in the woods earlier and there was a deer running through behind me. He took off pretty fast once he saw me. And then just double tap it again and it's gonna go back to your display right there. Let's get this drone off the ground and into the air. So I'm gonna remove that menu. And right now it's set to the low power mode because we're not currently flying it, but in a moment that's gonna go off. And we're gonna make sure we have it in our proper mode here. So I'm gonna go back up here and we're gonna go back to standard video. Realized I left it in AEB mode. So down there in the lower left, it's gonna tell us how much storage we have. On the internal storage, which we can only store 15 minutes on there with these settings, that's not very much. But when I put my SD card back in here again, it's gonna show us how much space we have on that. And then that 79, that is the battery level on the actual drone. The 94% is the battery level on the motion controller, and the 58% is the battery level on the goggles. Next to the 79, it's going to tell us how much longer we approximately have of flight time once it's out of low power mode and off the ground. And then the satellite symbol there with the 21 next to it, that shows how many satellites we're connected to. Where you see the D on here, the D indicates the distance between the drone and the home point, and the H indicates the height and the vertical speed. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna turn off the low power mode right here. So it's gonna exit that, and then when you see ready to fly at the top, you're good to go. So we're gonna go 1, 2, and the motors are gonna turn on. And then we are gonna hold it up.
Home point updated.
It's gonna lift off.
Takeoff.
So, cool thing now is we're seeing the perspective from the drone. And we've got our obstacle avoidance on. So, if I lift it up just a little bit, I don't wanna run it into a tree. And you're gonna hear that beeping if it's near any obstacles. So we wanna get it up a little bit higher. And then I'm gonna head off in this direction. This right here above the plus sign is where we're gonna send it whatever direction we want it to go. So if we want it to go this way or this way, but I'm going to currently put it a little bit above that and I'm gonna move it upward. It's gonna lift it up. But I like to keep it as close as possible to some of the obstacles because I find that gives us one of the neatest perspectives. So I don't want to get it too high above the trees. And then you can see there, drone signal may be obstructed, fly with caution. So I'm going to look around this way now. Beautiful view today. We're going to lift it up again. Thunderstorm clouds are definitely rolling in. Dip in a little bit low here. We're gonna pull up before those trees. I'm going to increase altitude just to get a better signal. Message over there. I'm going to keep pointing up right here. It definitely got us some more altitude. We are at about our max right now that I have it set for. So while we're up here, we can look around. Beautiful view. I love this immersive flying experience. And I'm curious how well this camera is picking up on the cloud details. I'm gonna have it return to home soon. Even though our battery does have a lot left on there, these long life batteries really are incredible. Still got like 15 minutes left of flight time. And it's still at 58%, so very impressed by that. Looks like we do have some rain coming out of a thunderstorm cloud down there. That's kind of cool. Get it up a little bit higher so I get a better signal. Very cool. I'll hover right there. And while it's there, I'm also able to look around. So I think I want to get a picture of that, maybe an AEB photo. That would be a great opportunity to do so. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop the recording. And I'm going to bring up my menu here. And we're going to change this to, I'm going to go to camera parameter settings. And we're going to do AEB photo right here. So I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to hit the shutter button. So I'm going to look right there. It's going to count down. And it's going to say exposing in the upper left and saving. Excellent. So now I'm going to switch back to video mode. We're going to fly this thing back to our starting point and get it landed. All right, so I'm going to tell this to come in and do an auto landing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold down on our red button here. And I'm going to have it return to home. Watching the shadow. Going to make sure it lands on those bricks like it's supposed to. Prime Day is coming. Starting June 23rd, Antigravity is running its biggest sale of the year with up to 25% off the A1 and accessories. Be sure to check out the links below so you don't miss the deals.